This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from the Gilded Pear Gallery. Well, Lauren is from the Gilded Pear. Thérèse is putting up her art at the Gilded Pear. So say hi to Thérèse Murdza and Lauren Tucci.
Yep. Hey, everybody.
Ladies, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thérèse, you get to Iowa fairly often. You come
sure
and
do.
display at the Gilded Pear
I sure do.
occasionally. When was the last time you were here?
I was here in the last about year and a half or so, 2 years.
And putting up a new exhibit, True Maps, that we'll talk about in just a minute. Lauren, for those who aren't familiar with Gilded Pear, although I can't imagine anyone who isn't because you have fabulous space and great artists, you just celebrated a birthday.
Yes, we did. Yes, we turned 8 years old on April 1st.
And when you think about the gallery and the artists, and every gallery has its own personality, what do you kind of think of as as your niche?
Largely colorful abstracts, but not always solely those items either. But we focus on 2D, 3D, and a various amount of locals, really, and regional artists.
And Thérèse, you, as I said, you get to Iowa quite a bit, but you live, is it in Oregon?
I live in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
I
Oh,
do now.
love
I know.
Portland.
I know. It's a wonderful place to live. And I lived here a number of years ago, and really just, it has my heart. I always feel like I'm an Iowa ambassador wherever I go, because people, still do not understand the vast treasure that is here sometimes. So it's really lovely to be back. I'm glad, to even be counted among the regional artists.
Oh, yeah.
It just feels really, I feel very welcomed when I come back. So I feel like our ties have never actually really broken.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I've been with them since the very beginning. I mean, I was with Janelle McLean when she had Corner House, and then met Susie there. And then when Susie started Gilded Pear, I was right there with her. So I've been on the roster since the very beginning and will be until the very end.
The upcoming exhibit is called True Maps.
Yes, it is.
Now, you actually started out more as a writer and then branched into art. Is that correct?
Right. My background's in music. My dad was a public school music teacher for 30-some years. And so my first sort of expression or understanding of creative work was through music. And then I began to write. And then through the writing, I really found the paint was underneath that. So in some ways, when people are like, oh, you went from this to this to this in a linear way, and that's not how I experience it. I understand that that's what it looks like. But for me, when I'm painting, it feels still like I'm making music or like I'm writing. There's a certain composition that happens, and then a certain editing that happens with the painting and the way that I do it. So it all feels, it feels like the truest expression and the place I'm most relaxed and I feel very vibrant when I'm there. I always feel like it's getting even more so as I get older.
Well, you're certainly in the right place for that. Coming
Yes.
to the jazz music station.
My dad
to
was
talk about your art.
he taught jazz.
Of course he did.
And he composed, right?
Yeah.
So
What was his primary instrument?
He did mostly woodwinds. So saxophone was his primary study when he was in school, and he was a composer.
We certainly, we see a lot of commonalities between, music in general and jazz in particular,
Right.
and visual art. A
Right.
lot of musicians are, also artists. I think of Tony Bennett,
Yes.
who was,
Yes.
who is a great painter.
Yes.
And we have a couple of friends here locally who.
Yes.
Paint. One fellow I know paints while he listens to the station,
Absolutely.
and then titles his art based on
Absolutely.
based on whatever's playing.
Yes.
But so tell me about True Maps and what little microcosm of your work this is going to be emphasizing.
When I think about that, True Maps, what does that mean for us, right? It means like, how do we hone in on the thing? Like, there's a lot of noise in the world, right? And so those
Distractions,
are right.
squirrel.
Exactly. Over and over and over again. So how do we, even as artists, cultivate space in order to really hear what we're meant to say, what we're meant to put into the world, whether musicians or writers or painters or however that is. And then the idea of giving other people an opportunity to pause for a minute, to look at something, even if some people don't even really register that, like if they hear something, people hear jazz all the time, but they don't even know, they're not even registering it, right? But there is something that happens to our bodies, and we kind of connect to, oh, a human being made that. And so there is something that, so I think of that as the true map. That's the way that we connect with people. And again, it doesn't have to be a giant parade about it. I think it's these that's why artists and musicians are so important in the world. We have to keep, we keep doing our thing, and it's kind of woven into the fabric. And at different cultural eras, we may or may not notice it as much, but it's still there. And then when people are tired with their phones and their screens, and then they're just like, oh, I need some respite, I need some refuge, we're here.
That, I think, is the biggest challenge I know for me, even when I go to look at art, is stilling myself.
Yeah.
Instead of just, oh, let me see this. Okay, now I got to see this. Now I got to look at this. Now I got to look at that,
Right.
because
Right.
you really do. It is completely antithetical to how we live our lives right now,
Right.
to pause and look at something that doesn't move for a while and decide how that reaches you.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I'm a big believer in that whatever we see gets in there, and we may call upon it another time. We also might not register it visually, but we might register it in another part of our body. Like you might say your heart or your spirit might be touched by it in some kind of way. And it doesn't have to even be conscious.
You said, so paint, are you mainly in looking at, kind of those seeing the video can kind of see a few things that we've got scattered here. Look, watercolors, is that what I'm saying? Is that
I don't use watercolors
Okay.
specifically, but what I use is a very highly pigmented paint, so that when it's watered down, the pigment is still in the water.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it's like a watercolor technique in some
Oh,
ways. So I'll
interesting.
sometimes paint flat and then let the pigment pool. So there is like a translucent quality to the layering.
You're going to be doing a little gallery reception, and people can walk through the exhibit
Absolutely.
with you. This is going to be Friday the 5th. What time is that going to be, Lauren?
It's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. tomorrow.
What kind of, now of course, we've been talking, you've been describing your art, but it's got to be weird to, take people through and say, okay, this is my painting, and here's what I was thinking about with that, because it's, as you said, it's not a linear process.
Right.
You're not
Right.
saying, well, I was watching the news and that inspired me to do this.
Right.
It's a different level of creativity.
Yeah, I love showing people the work. I love it because artists talk like this sometimes, like, I paint because I need to paint. I paint because I need the pause as well. And so when I'm showing people the work, we're looking at it together. I've never actually I've been doing this for 17-ish years, 18 years. Like, I don't think of it as like a parade of all the things I made. I think of it as an opportunity for all of us to look together. I think of the work as something that, channeled is that's a woo-woo West Coast California word, bringing it. But there is something still about us all having an opportunity, which is what openings do, right? But the show is also up for a couple of months. I hardly ever go to openings myself because it's way too much stimulation. I often will go to an opening at another time when the gallery is quiet, there's not a lot going on, and I can just kind of pass through. I may go a few times, for an artist. And the works in this show are actually larger scale than we've done in the past. So they're big. They're going to be bigger than us, which is another. That's an interesting experience for people to be able to stand in front of and let the work just kind of envelop you.
How many pieces did you bring?
I think we did 18.
Canvases. 18
Canvases, and then
yeah.
I have 30 works on paper, maybe
30 some odd. I think you have a total of 54.
54 pieces. Okay, so good.
Okay, that's
Come
a
see some
good,
stuff.
Yeah.
That's a
Come
lot of stuff to see.
Yeah, come see some stuff.
So the exhibit will be up for a couple of months, but even though you just said you never go to openings, everybody
Not
should.
that I don't. No, I just mean like for the people who are introverted and the people who are quiet, it is okay if you don't make it to the opening, but I would love to see you. I'm here. I'm here for the next couple of days. I would love to see people at the, we're ready for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
5 to 7,
Please.
Friday, tomorrove. I know there's a
Please
lot
come to
going
the
on,
opening.
but make ours, put it on the list.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. I love what I've seen. It's so
Thank
great
you.
to
Thank you.
have you back in the air, and glad that you come
Thank
back
you.
every now and again. Thank you for being an
Absolutely.
Iowa ambassador on the left
Absolutely.
coast.
1,000%.
And Lauren, what are the gallery hours?
The gallery hours today are 10 to 7, so we're open a little bit later if you can't make it tomorrow. And tomorrow we're open 10 till 5 for normal business hours, and then we're open for the reception from 5 to 7. And then Saturday, if you want to see Thérèse as well, maybe.
I'll be here.
We can swing that in.
Absolutely.
10 to 4 on Saturday.
And the website, if people want to get a little advanced look or get any more information, is
gildedpeargallery.com, and the work will be posted after the reception.
okay. Great.
Yeah.
Lauren, Thérèse, thanks so much for
Thanks
being
so
here.
much.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
to
much.
see you all. Come.
Yes.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most Thursdays and Fridays at 10:20, or download or watch the video podcast using your favorite podcast catcher or at kcck.org/culture. I'm Dennis Green.